I'm Marky Billson. This is Tri-City Sports Now, and earlier this morning it was announced Jim Schaus will be the new commissioner of the Southern Conference beginning next month. Schaus comes from Ohio, where he was the Bobcats athletic director for the last 11 years, covering him for the Athens, Ohio Messenger. Okay, got the name wrong earlier. The Athens Messenger is Jason Arkley, and he joins me on the phone here for our next segment here on Tri-City Sports Now on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Jason Arkley, what can we expect from Jim Schaus here as being the new commissioner, the 9th overall of the Southern Conference?
Jim is a very steady individual. His management style is consistent on the conservative side. He is not going to blow things up or rock the boat. Very solid, consistent individual, and he's basically been a lifelong athletics administrator. He's got a family connection with this sort of work. His father was Fred Schaus. And if you're familiar with West Virginia University history, the LA Lakers, that's his dad, Fred Schaus. So Jim has got a lifetime of experience in dealing specifically with men's basketball. And prior to his 11-year run at Ohio, he was at Wichita State. And if you're familiar with college basketball, you know the strides and jumps that Wichita State took, in this last generation. Jim was part of that, building that program there at Wichita State as an assistant AD, came to Ohio and again did a lot of things to get the Bobcats athletic program up and running to a level where it needed to be and frankly where it hadn't been for a generation before Jim's arrival. So he first and foremost, his background, his strength is specifically dealing with men's basketball. I think that's a great fit for what the Southern Conference is right now and some of the programs that are currently in the conference. He's, again, a solid guy, by-the-book guy. He is not going to push the envelope in terms of rules or bold ideas, but you know what you're getting with Jim. He's dependable, he's solid, and I think it's a great fit for him personally and looking at what the Southern Conference has been about. And I think it gives them an experienced, steady hand at the wheel for the conference moving forward.
No. I will say this, one thing here you said kind of worries me, and that was, I guess, that he wouldn't bend the rules or so, because right now I think the Southern Conference could go either way, but if you're ever going to really grow, you got to make some sort of bold move. Say TV package. The SoCon TV package is not the best. What's Ohio's broadcasting package? What did he do, if anything, with the Bobcats broadcast team? Why should we believe that the Southern Conference will have a better TV deal, let's just say, now that they have a new commissioner coming from Ohio?
Ohio's in the Mid-American Conference, and the Mid-American Conference has been a broadcast partner with ESPN, the world pod leader, for going on 20 years now.
Sure.
And Jim, working at Ohio with the MAC, has been part of that group that has kind of established the MAC as that midweek darling, specifically with football. Again, a lot of the MAC's exposure recently has been with football and the midweek games in November, and that has been kind of the conference's identity over the last 10 years or so. So he's familiar with how these contracts work and how the negotiation works. Every conference, unless you're the SEC or the Big Ten, is looking to improve their broadcast portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
How much room is there to do that now if you're in the Southern Conference or the Mid-American Conference? I don't know. But he has done a good job in helping the MAC and helping his previous institution get more exposure. If you go back 10, 12 years ago and you look at how many times per year an Ohio University or Toledo or Akron or Kent State appeared on national broadcast TV compared to what those numbers are like now, it's been a huge jump. So the MAC doesn't get a ton of money from ESPN, but they do get prime time viewing windows in the middle of the week, and it has given the conference an identity it didn't have before. So in that way, that arrangement is a little, at the time, was different, was bold, was a little outside the box. I'm sure that is something that Jim can tap into and try to get the Southern Conference on board in a way to identify either increased FCS football appearances, or highlight the basketball in the Southern Conference, which obviously with Wofford's success last year is poised to have more visibility forward.
Yeah, we're talking to Jason Arkley of the Athens Messenger, who has covered new commissioner Jim Schaus as beat writer of the Ohio Bobcats. You mentioned that he came from Wichita State, which is actually where ETSU head coach Steve Forbes comes from, and also his background with West Virginia. I know that he got an athletics administration degree, in addition to the fact that Jim Schaus's father coached Jerry West at West Virginia. That was something we were talking about on the show just yesterday, because Jerry West is getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the question was he the greatest basketball player ever from the SoCon, or was it Steph Curry, or could it have been someone else? You know, that sort of was an argument that we had yesterday here, Jason. So I get the idea why his background was appealing to a Brian Nolan, who also has a background at West Virginia, and he sort of headed up the search along with the search committee CSS, but among the the SoCon presidents and such. I am kind of intrigued by Ohio and their improvement as a football school, however, because the SoCon has lost something over the years. What with the departures, Georgia Southern, Appalachian State, even say Elon or somebody like that, certainly Marshall. And so it's not the college football conference that it once was. What are some of the things that Schaus did at Ohio that made the Bobcats more competitive on the gridiron?
Well, I don't know if Jim could say, he did this or did that to make the Bobcats more successful. When Jim Schaus was hired, Frank Solich was already the head football coach at Ohio University.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing that will help Jim in trying to go the Southern Conference to a better level of football is the fact that he got to work alongside Frank Solich for 11 years. And I've talked to Frank hundreds and hundreds of times, and if you're working with Frank for a period of 11 years, you're going to learn some things simply by osmosis. So that was one of the reasons Jim left Wichita State was to come to a school that had FBS football, and in my opinion, he got a great situation with a legendary head coach, and I know that Jim picked up tons and tons of valuable information about what football coaches are looking for, how conferences should approach marketing there's just volumes of information, background, experience that simply working with a guy like Frank would gain from that thing. So I don't know if Jim specifically did this, or this to help Ohio football elevate, but he backed his football program as well as he was able to for the last 11 years, and really got to soak up and learn a bunch from a guy like Frank Solich. I mean, Frank deserves, again, 90% of the credit for turning that program around, and Jim, to his credit, knew what kind of asset he had in his head coach, and basically didn't let him do whatever he wanted, but yes, you're the point man. I'm going to be here to help you do what you know you can do. So I think it was a symbiotic relationship. Obviously, Jim Schaus benefited, the whole athletic department benefited from football becoming better and more important. And I'm sure in that process, Jim Schaus learned a ton of what it takes to field a consistent winning football program, and can help pass along some of those lessons to the Southern Conference.
Yeah, you mentioned Solich, and I can recall when he came to Ohio. I used to be Pitt's sideline reporter. I remember when Tyler Palko went from throwing. Yes, go ahead.
Athens that night?
I was not in Athens that night. No, I was working the desk of the Wheeling Intelligencer, as a matter of fact. But no, what I remember very much was that Tyler Palko, some people might remember, he used to be quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, kind of a journeyman NFL guy. But he went from throwing 5 touchdown passes against Notre Dame one year to losing to Ohio. Then I think it was the next year, it may have been 2 years later. But that was what Solich did for Ohio football, which I had always recalled before, lost more than they won. Maybe a few years here and there, some exceptions. I don't have the year-to-year in front of me. But yes, then, as it said here, bowl eligible in 10 bowls for Ohio under the athletic directorship of Jim Schaus, the new Southern Conference commissioner, beginning next year. So where Ohio athletes had an 88% grad rate. Was that the athletic department in general, 88% grad rate, or was it a specific, the school in general, or are you familiar with that grad rate that was in the press release?
The 88% is student athletes.
Okay.
And compare that to it's a higher percentage than the general student population in Ohio. There's a number of athletic programs that have 100% graduation rate. There's only been one team in all 11 years that had any kind of APR penalty while Schaus was at Ohio. That was men's basketball, I think, in 2010, 2011. But in every other program and every other year, they had met the APR thresholds. And again, I think they had like 10 athletic teams over the last reporting year, where they actually were 990 above in terms of APR score. That's kind of what I meant by the book. And with Jim Schaus, academics has always been one of the first things they try to take care of. He's been very conscious about doing what he can to help student athletes in terms of physical and mental well-being. He wants to, again, as an athletic director for one specific school, his two goals were: we want to field championship contending teams every year as well as we can, and we want to make sure we're doing everything possible to take care and be considerate of the student athletes who are going out there and competing for our institution. So when I say by the book, that Jim was always really conscious about the APRs and the academic responsibilities of the student athletes in the department, and making sure that they were being taken care of as well as he can. And I think those two goals align with the direction of many of the programs, if not all the schools in the Southern Conference. They're not there to generate pro players necessarily. They're there to develop student athletes who will, again, address all parts of being a student athlete, not just the athletic part.
I mean, I could tell you about great Southern Conference athletes or so on and so forth who have gone on to the pros or something, but I do get your point, and I also think that fits in well in a conference with schools like, say, the military schools, Citadel and VMI, Mercer, Furman, Wofford, which consider themselves, very elite academically. Of course, then you got ETSU, which is basically where if you live in the Tri-Cities and you graduate high school and you want to go to college, you go. They have, I think, a 90% grad rate there. Anyway, hey, thanks for letting us know what's going on here with the new commissioner coming in, Jason Arkley of the Athens Messenger. You've covered Jim Schaus, the new commissioner coming from Ohio. And when we come back, Tri-City Sports Now, I will be giving you a little bit more some basketball talk, as a matter of fact. Tri-City Sports Now. Thank you much. I do